Chiropractors, is your staff your revenue partner? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants and Chiro Health USA. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Perusich, and I'm flying solo today. So welcome, everybody. Appreciate you joining the podcast. I want to talk about this idea of having not just task-oriented employees, but having employees who are literally your revenue partners and your partners in the success of your clinic. So what am I talking about? Far too often, we hire people who are good at tasks. They're good at billing. They're good at organizing procedures. They're good at answering phones and those kind of things. But what about the other functions in your practice that they could take over? So I want to dive into this just a little bit, because this is a mind shift in the profession. And it's a mind shift of getting away from task-oriented people and bringing employees into your practice that actually partner with you. So that traditional employee mindset is one where we seek out people who are good on the phones, who are good at managing paperwork, who are good at setting appointments, who understand computers, who can move patients for us, and all the other tasks that we have in our practice. But do any of those directly drive your revenue? No, they don't. Now, yes, we could argue that it helps. It certainly helps you build relationships to have somebody answering the phones and greeting people when they walk in, but it doesn't directly drive revenue. In that scenario, the only person in the practice that's directly driving revenue is you. Now, I want you to think about that for just a minute. We need to break for a quick word from our sponsors, but I want you to think about that for just a minute. How can staff take some of the revenue generation off of you? We'll be right back.
In today's economy, every dollar counts. Families are facing tough choices, having to reconsider what was once essential to them. When it comes to healthcare, no one should have to compromise on their well-being because of financial constraints. That's where Chiro Health USA steps in, the solution for your practice. We understand the financial pressures families are under, whether they're insured, on Medicare, or paying out of pocket for treatment. By offering discounts on care, you can ensure that your patients can still afford the treatment they need. At Chiro Health USA, we're committed to making sure no family has to sacrifice their health due to financial hardship. We'll work with you to create a game plan that keeps your waiting room full and your practice thriving. And here's the best part. Offering affordable care not only benefits your patients, but also positively impacts your bottom line. So why wait? Join Chiro Health USA today and join the ranks of the most successful practices. Because when you put your patients first, everyone wins.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants and Chiro Health USA. We're talking about developing employees into income-generating partners for your practice. We laid the groundwork before the break about how we often hire people who are just task-oriented people. And I hear this all the time from doctors. My staff doesn't like to sell. My staff doesn't like to talk to people about money. My staff doesn't like to look for opportunities for additional treatment plans and those kind of things. And that's like nails on the chalkboard to me. Put the brakes on. Let's talk about this, because it's crucial in your business for long-term success that we develop employees into business partners with us. There's not a reason in the world, in most cases, where they shouldn't be doing some of these things to help you generate more revenue. So let's think about this. You treat maybe 6 or 8 patients an hour. All right. Now that's just if you're adjusting. Adjust if you're adjusting. Anyway, but what if all those patients needed muscle stem, for example? Are you going to have to do that? How much revenue are you taking away from yourself by taking that 5 minutes to set that patient up on muscle stem? What if you had a staff member take over that role and all you had to do was adjust patients and send them to therapy? Adjust a patient, send them to therapy. Now, let's pick that apart a little bit. You've heard me say this. If you've listened to our podcast very long, you've heard me say over and over again that you should be generating anywhere from $400 to $600 per hour in revenue. That's collected revenue, $400 to $600 per hour in collected revenue. Now, if you're doing all the work, you're taking away from your ability to do that. And who's the most expensive paid person in the practice? Now, I realize some of you may be saying, it's not me. It should be you. And so we want to be able to generate the revenue so you can have the income and the lifestyle that you want and build the practice. So when we teach staff how to take over some of those roles, what do? We parlay ourselves a little bit. So now we've increased our capacity. Now we can see more adjustments and do more therapy at the same time. But here's the key. Let's not just think about it from a capacity standpoint. Let's think about it from a profitability standpoint. Have we given ourselves the ability to be more profitable with that muscle stem? Okay. So back up with me here. Let's say you cost your clinic $100 an hour in salary. Okay. And if you cost $100 an hour, but your staff costs you 20, having them do therapy, is that a cheaper way to affect or deliver that therapy? Of course it is. You're saving $80 an hour. Over a 10-hour day, that's $800 you've saved. Plus, you've put yourself in a position where you can drive more revenue because we just increased your capacity. So this becomes a win situation. Now, we need to take another quick break here, but I want to come back and I want to talk about how developing staff not only increases your capacity, but it increases your employee retention. Word from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
KC Chiropractic Consultants, your partner in chiropractic success. We are dedicated with one-on-one guidance to bring you all your practice management needs. Let's supercharge your practice. Give us a call today.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. I'm glad you're tuning in today because we're talking about how to create staff and how to create staff as revenue generating partners. I'm so excited about this topic. I can't even talk straight. So I want to talk about the fact that developing staff into roles like that, where they're getting more engaged in the practice, and they do get more engaged when they're helping drive revenue and not just taking some appointments and picking up the phone and making some calls or billing insurance. When you turn them into revenue generating partners, you literally increase your employee retention. Why is that? One of the retention factors that people like, one of the reasons why people stay on the job, it's not money. It's two things. It's the ability to have time off. And number two, it's personal and professional development. So the more we teach them, the more we train them, the more we develop them, guess what? The more likely we are to retain them. And if they're a great employee and they're helping you drive revenue and keep your costs down and your profitability up, aren't they worth training? Aren't they worth retaining? Of course they are. So we want to make sure that we are giving them that skill development that's so important. Now, we also have to empower them just a little bit. If they're going to be working directly with our patients, then we need to empower them to make some decisions from time to time. So when they're in therapy, for example, they need to make sure that they know what the contraindications are for muscle stem. Now, you shouldn't be sending somebody over there, obviously, for muscle stem if there's a contraindication with that patient, but sometimes things fall through the cracks. I can tell you one time I had a patient who had a pacemaker and I just forgot. I was busy. I sent this patient over to my therapist and the therapist came to me and said, I let that patient go home for the day and did not do the muscle stem because, doc, I think you forgot they have a pacemaker. And oh my gosh, thank you for helping me not create a malpractice issue. Things like that happen. So want to make sure that in that training that we're training them to make decisions like that. And there's a bazillion other decisions, and you should be empowering all your staff to make decisions because your front desk people, they're going to see opportunities for new treatment plans. They need to be empowered to bring that up to a patient. And I don't mean making recommendations on care. Things like if somebody comes in with obvious signs of plantar fasciitis or obvious signs of a frozen shoulder, and the patient's talking about it and complaining about it at the front counter, empower them to understand that, hey, that's a condition that we have the tools to help with. So their response can be, oh, gosh, your shoulder's hurting you. Dr. Perusich works on shoulders all the time, and we have great success in our clinic. Make sure you bring that up to him. Boom. I've got a brand new treatment plan in the practice. And I'm telling you, docs, those are happening every day around you. And that's just another example of how when you create revenue generating employees, their focus changes. They're not focused on how many patient visits did I schedule today, which is great, but they're focused more on the profitability of the practice. So it's the front end versus the back end. And it's really that back end that we want to focus on. So take the time, docs, to develop your staff. This is one of the things we do at CATS Consultants is we help doctors develop staff into these revenue generating partners. And I'm telling you, when you do it, it's a game changer for your profitability. It's a game changer for your revenue. It's a game changer for your income. And ultimately, it's a game changer for your lifestyle. And isn't that a great thing? All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate everybody. Subscribe to the podcast. It's down here somewhere. Subscribe to the podcast. Keep listening. We can't thank you enough for being listeners. Our podcast is growing by leaps and bounds every week. And that's because of you out there, our audience. Be sure to check us out at catsconsultants.com. Also check out chirohealthusa.com. And from all of us here at CATS Consultants, we appreciate all of you and make it a great day. We'll see you.